all that money is gone. The millions of dollars that I poured into Social Security on behalf of as an employer, that's the part that we have to ask ourselves. What does retirement look like for me? What does it look like for you? Retirement's not going to be there.
There's crazy things like just cursory examination of Social Security, and we've got people in there that are 150 years old. Now, do you know? They should be very famous, one of the two.
So think about this. There's over 20 million getting checks whose ages are above 110 years old. Let's just take the people who are 300 years old or 250 years old. There's a cutoff, so there's only a spouse or dependent children that would be eligible for your Social Security. So at 300 years old, you have neither. There is fraud, there is oversight. So I'm sure there's people who are going to argue that yes, you can receive benefits on behalf of your spouse or partial payments, but not the people who are 250 years old, not the people who are 280 or 180 years old, not those individuals. There's no surviving children or spouse in that category. At even 110 years old, it's very unlikely that you have a surviving spouse or children. I've been bitching about Social Security for years, and one thing that killed me, I'll tell you a story. I had an employee that worked for me in-house. She was like 20 years old, 20 or 21 years old. Her husband passed away in a car accident. So she's receiving at 20 years old his Social Security benefits. He'd only been paying into the system for a couple of years. And so for the life of, as long as her child was, until she was 18, she was going to get $1,100 a month. The system was never built for that. The system was built to keep people who aren't able to work or don't have resources. But I can guarantee you a 20-year-old girl has plenty of resources available to her, even if it means sharing room, renting space, or whatever it is. But it wasn't meant to pay out $1,100 a month for 20-year-old guys who died in an accident. So that's when I realized the fraud. But the other thing too is that Social Security, you can be 30 years old. You yourself right now can claim Social Security, but you have to have two prevailing injuries or disabilities rather. And as long as you have two prevailing disabilities, you qualify. And it wasn't built for that. The system was built for people who are of a certain age who can no longer work or be productive in work and are at risk of not having income because of that. But when you're 30, it doesn't matter. I don't care what your disabilities are. There's organizations that will support you. All I'm saying is that Social Security was originally created it was a safety net for people after a certain age who no longer or were at risk for not being able to get money in because of age and the ability to work. If you're 30 and you have a disability, then let's create a different fund that's privately held and then get money from that organization but Social Security in and of itself was supposed to have been just for retirees. But since then, it is for people who are 25 years old, 30 years old, 35, 40. Anybody can draw from it. And that's what's bleeding the system dry.
Social Security is almost out of money. They broke it. We bought it. This comes from the Congressional Budget Office, who just released a new report saying Social Security has just 9 years until it runs out of money. Why? Because it's a Ponzi scheme. It should not be, but it is.
If Social Security is tapped out in 8 years, fine, even 10 years, I won't be retired. You won't be retired. And I paid in how much? Not just as an employee in my employee taxes, but as an employer. The millions of dollars that I poured into Social Security on behalf of as an employer, all that money is gone. Because once it's solvent, once it's bankrupt, then what? The government's going to say, we're going to start over, and we're going to take what? You're going to take what's left of it and do what with it? Do you understand what I'm saying? So the money that you and I paid into it won't be there. So what is going to be the solution? That's the part that we have to ask ourselves. What does retirement look like for me? What does it look like for you? Retirement's not going to be there. Again, we live in America where we don't face the issues that are before us until it is actually at our doorstep. And that's the problem that we have in America, is that we're not willing to look at the problems within ourselves, within our own homes, within our own communities, within our own state, definitely not within the federal government. Until America really wakes up and says, hey, We need to start tackling these problems all together. And it starts with finding billions and trillions of dollars that Trump and Doge are going through. Start there, because there's money there. You can fund those programs like Social Security, making sure that there's enough money there. Tighten up the reins on that. Stop paying people who are 300 years old. Find the waste within the IRS. Find the waste within the other federal agencies. Find the waste. Recycle that money back to the people. Do away with the IRS. Go with a federal tax on all consumption, not production. You're going to see America take off like they've never seen it. Once you do that, the revival of America will be almost overnight. But again, people will push back against it, because it is not the American dream that they seek, but rather the restructuring of America, and they want to see that. They want to see an America where the control belongs to the government, and the will and the right of the people are taken away.